trip.
Oh, Nancy
and like,
Pelosi.
I'm glad we opened up with Caleb saying that and me like saying what I said, because it's like, dude, I don't know why you were going on this trip anyways. The government's closed, and why would you do the State of the Union when the government's closed? Just work on opening it, then you can do the State of the Union the next day, and then you can go on your trip.
State of the Union.
Sure. So
we don't have one.
Yeah, just do it the next day after you open it. Yeah.
So Nancy Pelosi sends Trump a letter, right? Because she is the Speaker of the House, and how does it work, Ciro? The president is formally invited to do the State of the Union, because it used to be
the Congress.
Used to be in writing or something like that.
I don't know. I think we looked that up. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some historicity to it, but the precedent was that the Speaker of the House sends an invitation to the president to come give a State of the Union address. So she sends him a letter saying, hey, due to like security concerns, since all the employees are furloughed right now, and due to the government being shut down, maybe we should delay the State of the Union, or you can submit your State of the Union in a letter to the House. So Trump, of course, gets pissed off about this. And Nancy Pelosi apparently had a foreign trip scheduled, like a 9-day foreign trip, where she was going to go to Afghanistan and she was going to go to Brussels. Something to do with like NATO and talking to allies in Afghanistan. I don't know.
Yeah.
But literally, they're getting on a bus, Nancy Pelosi and like her whole entourage, and like within an hour of her planned to be departed, he calls her up and says, "Hey, I'm executive leader. I run the military, and you're not allowed to use our military planes for this trip because of the shutdown." So he essentially does a tit for tat sort of deal.
Sure.
Obviously just to get in her face about it. But like both of these people, they're both playing petty games. A, Nancy Pelosi shouldn't have done anything. B, Trump shouldn't have replied. But they're both just like playing petty games because the government shut down right now and they can't figure anything out. But you're right, Ciro. I mean, why are we giving a State of the Union if the government shut down? A, and B, if the government shut down, why is the Speaker of the House going on a 9-day trip overseas? Like, what do you mean? We're shut down right now. It doesn't make sense, especially being the Speaker of the House. Where are you going?
That's the thing. I
so stupid.
I feel like at this point, if I ever ran for Congress, I would only run on one platform, and that is that you can shut the government down, but the first people to be shut down is Congress itself.
No paychecks. And nobody can go. You can't break. You can't go on break. You can't go on vacation. Congress can't like dismiss until you figure this out. Because why are we shut down?
Go ahead, order some Domino's, bitch. You're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah, but that's coming out of their pocket.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But staffers still get paid because it's not their fault. You know what I mean? The janitor still gets paid.
Yeah, sure.
But it really should go from the top down. If you, Senate and Congress can't get this figured out, and the president, you don't get paid.
Yeah, this one's not difficult.
Petty, man. It's just petty garbage, and this is why.
Yeah, this one's not difficult.
Yeah, there's not much disagreement here. It's just dumb games, dumb political games. Figure shit out. Trump, be a leader. Nancy, where are you going? Be a leader.
Right. Well, that's the thing, too, is Nancy be a leader.
Oh, obviously. Yeah.
No, you're not. Yeah. Chuck Schumer. What's Chuck Schumer's friggin' deal?
Just get some more money for general border stuff, and you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit more conservative when it comes to immigration and border protection. I just think a wall is a waste of money. There are better ways to protect your border.
Yeah.
Technology is a thing.
I get so tired of like just people that are like, oh, the border is like a crisis and it's so terrible. I'm like, yo, we have border patrol to the tune of like, I think it's like 10,000 on the southern border, right? And then you got customs and whatever the heck. We're already doing a lot. I'm not saying we don't need to do more. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like the idea that like we're doing nothing is just feels so dumb to me. I'm like, what?
I mean, I don't think the southern border is the primary place of entry, but we do have a pretty bad problem with the number of illegals we have.
Well, when we were like lightly chatting about it before,
it's a lot of people.
Earlier today, I told you like it's when people are like, oh, there's heroin that comes across the border, and there's like 300 people a week that die from overdoses of illegal heroin smuggled across the border. It's like, yeah, that's pretty bad. But also, like, are we not prioritizing the fact that like thousands of people die every week from the opioid crisis, which is mainly pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
It's like, come on, yo.
Where's the real crisis?
We're not prioritizing anything. When you don't prioritize things that in a way that like legitimately makes sense by the numbers, then it just feels like to me you're pandering. I'm like, why are you like, you know, just like the 15 people that they had their there was like 15 mothers at Speaker Pelosi's office, and they all had sons or daughters that were killed by illegal immigrants, and that's terrible. And I hope every single one of those illegal immigrants that killed those people were prosecuted to the full extent. But the idea that 15 people, if it was just 15 people, you know, $20 billion wall, we need to prioritize things that are bad in our country, you know. And I've said it many a time, like just one person going hungry or one person dying when they didn't need to is a tragedy. But, you know, there's also there's got to be a list of priorities that we need to deal with things.
Right.
You know?
Like if your primary concern is American lives, then there are bigger things facing us.
Yo, definitely. Richard Ojeda, when one of his, like, what a wonderful man. In one of his things that I shared, it was like, we've lost more people to the opioid crisis than Vietnam, Korea, and I think both the modern wars combined. It's like, oh my goodness, what are we doing? These people are just dying. And some of it might be stuff that you can't control, and bad things happen because you can't literally control everyone's decision making. But there's study after study that shows like people just go in for, you know, a regular pain thing, or they have a small amount of pain, and doctors are just like, just take a prescription painkiller, like go for it. It's like, oh my goodness, it's so dangerous. So just got to prioritize things better. You know, that's how I feel about it.
Fair.
So
be better leaders.
Oh, sure. Also, if you open up the government again, how about you figure out how to make us be in the positive for once? Figure it out.
Speaking of specifically, I know we haven't really gone over anything. I know I haven't submitted an article like I normally do, but this will be super quick for you guys.
Go ahead.
This is from the Washington Post by Christopher Ingram. The headline is: a pharma company that spent $500,000 trying to keep pot illegal just got DEA approval for synthetic marijuana. There's also another one. I should find it. There was another pharmaceutical company that was bribing Congress and whatnot to keep marijuana illegal, and he didn't get any jail time or anything. Or it's just how is it that we allow people that make opioids, you know, to have that level of influence over the government? I got to find the exact article.
Well, also the context matters there. Like, how dangerous is marijuana compared to opioids? Like, that's crazy. There's a wild difference between how dangerous it is to like someone's actual life. And marijuana's Schedule 1. Like, that's one of the most ironic things. We no country's perfect on this planet. Each country has its flaws. But man, one of the ones that just slaps you in the face with like make no sense is the fact that marijuana is a Schedule 1 drug. Like, really? Are you kidding me? Like, that's not being honest about the dangers to the human body at all. At all. Like, that's crazy. Ugh. And obviously we don't want every single person in society smoking marijuana, but come on, man. Like, we can't regulate it like alcohol. We can. Tax it and pay for healthcare. It's too easy.
Tax it and reverse global warming.
You tax the bad habits of society to pay for the shortcomings of society. It's not difficult. Figure it out.
Well, how is marijuana the bad part of society?
Well, not even bad, but I mean, it's still
distinction.
It still makes you feel a type of way, and it's still like contributed to, you know, maybe just generally things maybe not being as efficient as they otherwise should have. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say man. No, I don't disagree with you.
For as many people that smoke weed and play video games stereotypically, and drink Mountain Dew and eat Doritos and never leave their mom's basement, there's just as many high-strung out, you know, business people who are under insane amounts of stress, and they get through their day and they're able to remain a functioning member of society by just smoking a little weed before bed.
Anybody with PTSD? Anybody with glaucoma? I remember watching an old documentary where it's like, if you have glaucoma, it actually like helps you keep your eyesight. It's there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can use.
How about all the
no doubt,
all the epileptic kids who can have normal fucking lives?
Sure.
You know?
Then regulate it.
But I agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you on that one. You know,
Yeah.
just appropriate regulations and not just that, but also an ever flourishing competitive market, because you always want them to be growing and producing and developing the best of the best, right? And the reason why you want that is because there's the potential for it to be medicinally used.
Yeah, right. For studying.
Because I'm gonna speak out of turn here because I don't have my sources, but there's a state that was looking at and thinking about creating it so that there's only one grower and distributor that would handle the whole state. Like that's a good way to get bad shit. You know what I mean? Like without having appropriate regulation and the competitiveness of business.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the best of the best. Sure. That's the whole point of a capitalist market, is to get the best of the best at the best price, at the cheapest price, et cetera. The whole 9 yards, you know?
No, of course. Competition is always positive for society, no question.
As long as it's regulated competition, as long as it's appropriate competition, absolutely.
That's true. There's always a push and pull.
Of course.
But listen, I'm just generally a fan of like tax things. I never obviously I'm not a huge smoker, but I've had
as I hear a lighter.
No, I'm talking about cigarettes. I'm talking about cigarettes, but okay. I was about to say.
It sounded like somebody was lighting. Like, I'm not that big a smoker.
I didn't even hear that.
That's what it sounded like.
I'll listen to it back when I go through it and edit it, but I'm gonna leave it in. But
it was there.
I smoke a cigarette or two when I'm drunk a lot, but I used to dip a lot, and I mean it was way cheaper in Georgia, and so I did it a lot more. And then when I moved home here, it was a lot more expensive, so I didn't. And I'm not upset about that. Like, I think there's no question that, like, you should tax the bad habits of society to discourage / like, I mean, you need funding somehow, so you might as well do it that way. And then,
well, also to offset, sort of mitigate the costs of what people participating in that behavior have to deal with. You know what I mean? Like, say if you're a drinker, we tax it because people do abuse it a bit, and we pay a bit more in healthcare costs as a result.
Oh, right. And there's
that
angle to it, too. Yeah.
I mean, if you take that angle, you know, where does a McDonald's cheeseburger lie?
I agree. There should be fast food taxes. Absolutely, I agree. We should take.
What if you tax
even personally? You know, I'm not trying to be a shitbag, but you know, that's my vice.
Oh, sure. I go to fast food places.
Fucking food.
What if we taxed like 1 or 2 cents on every single item that you purchased from like a fast food place?
Well, now you have to define fast food.
That would generate a tremendous amount of revenue.
It would
that's
generate.
Fair. I'm just speaking in generalizations, but no, that's the same thing. Like if it's something that's not good for you,
when you can buy 10 chicken nuggets for $1 from Burger King, we need to
Excuse me. Dude. Let's be very clear. It is 99 cents.
My apologies. Look, there's not even tax on it. Unbelievable.
Right. Well, I get it, you know, and I also argue the other way for the most part, and that is, you know, the freedom to do whatever the fuck it is you want to do. You want to sit there and eat yourself to death, you know, more power to you. But
but you got to pay a bit more.
You should incur said cost of those choices, you know.
Right.
I've always been.
We're not telling you can't do it. We're just saying you got to offset, you know, a little bit of that burden now because you wanted to smoke a pack of cigarettes a day.
Right. For me, when it came to healthcare, I feel like I've been a fan lately of the kind of like the 21 and older model, if you will, where if you're 21, that your healthcare is paid for, and once you hit 21, like the choices you make are you're on your own. Not necessarily that, you know, obviously not everyone has a health condition that is completely self-inflicted, but
yeah,
we make sure you make it to be a functioning adult, and then at that point you're on your own. You get health insurance through where you work, or
what if you work 40 hours a week at a place and they don't really offer any health benefits?
Well, you would. I feel you would still have, you know, a market in which the government helps to operate, or helps to try to subsidize some of those costs.
And that's what it is now, Medicaid.
Right, but
X is that.
But specifically, you know,
as long as you work, then I don't. Yeah, as long as you work, I don't really care. If you don't work, then I don't want to hit list. But, you know, if you work, then, yeah, you should have health care and should be able to feed your family and whatever.